Now, Brexit talks have ended in a stalemate yet again. A weekend of intense negotiations has failed to break the deadlock, leaving little hope or time for a resolution before a summit of EU leaders in Brussels this Wednesday. Now, the meeting is one that they had hoped to use to finalize the divorce. Still with us is Rupert Harrison of BlackRock. Rupert, we keep on hearing rumors and speculation. It's a stalemate. Half of the government may want to quit. I mean, where are we really? Do we just need to, bide our time and see at the 11th hour where we are, or do you follow kind of blow by blow?
Probably yes. I mean, what we're seeing is a quite familiar game of some multi-dimensional brinkmanship, which should be pretty familiar to people who have followed previous EU negotiations. I think that the key fact about this summit this week is that it's not the last chance saloon. Everybody knows that there's more time if necessary. Everybody knows this can get pushed into November or even December. And that is, I think, the main barrier to getting a deal this week. I think that on the other side of the equation, it's very important to be aware that the shape of a deal is pretty obvious to everyone. Yeah. It's a really key fact about this, that we are not miles apart. There are key issues around the time limiting of the UK staying in a customs union as part of the backstop, and there are key issues around regulatory barriers between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. But these are relatively small margins in the bigger scheme of things. The problem is no one, I think, at the moment has the incentive to make that final climb down in order to make this week work. OK,
but is there any doubt in your mind that we will get a deal that will be OK with both, for both parties, and that will actually be signed off by the UK Parliament?
Look, there's some doubt because, in any situation like this, who knows, there could be miscalculation on either side about the other side's bottom line. My central case is still that we will get a deal. I think that it's not impossible that we see, say, tomorrow Theresa May make a last-minute trip to Brussels in order to tie this down ahead of this week's summit. At this stage, that looks relatively unlikely. I think we're going to get a relatively tense summit, but I still think that all the incentives are for both sides to come together in the end.
Rupert, Deutsche Bank published moments ago, I'm sure you haven't seen it with the speed of news today, George Saravellis published moments ago a blistering and cautious note on Brexit. And I love what they said in that they are solving for the unsolvable in terms of the Irish border. Even dumb Americans like me have a cursory knowledge of the so-called Irish border. Is it unsolvable?
No, I don't think it's unsolvable. I think that there is a solution emerging which involves the UK conceding in the backstop situation some kind of regulatory barrier in the Irish Sea. Let's be clear, there already are regulatory barriers in the Irish Sea. So for food and agriculture, there already are regulatory checks between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. And on the EU side, I think this is going to require some kind of acceptance that this backstop requires the whole of the UK to remain in a customs union if necessary. Now, of course, both sides, particularly the UK side, will say this backstop is never going to be needed. It's entirely academic. We're going to negotiate this great trade deal in goods that's going to make it all unnecessary. But it's the requirement for the withdrawal. But it is solvable. You've got to have there are three parties really in this negotiation right now. There's the Democratic Unionists in Northern Ireland, there is the UK government and Number 10 Downing Street, and there is the EU side. As I say, multi-dimensional brinkmanship on these issues, but a solution is there.
Can the Irish bring down the government? Can DUP bring down the May government?
They can. I very much doubt that they will. There's been some talk about the DUP, for example, voting against the key budget votes. We have a budget in the UK in a couple of weeks. Even that would not technically be a confidence issue for the government. We have a new Fixed-Term Parliaments Act which says that only a specific confidence motion can count as a confidence vote for the government. For the DUP to get to that stage where they're really looking down the barrel of collapsing the government and the risk of a Jeremy Corbyn government, I think is very, very unlikely. That they are past masters at playing negotiations to the 11th hour, squeezing out every drop of compromise and particularly making it look back home like they have squeezed out every drop of compromise. And I think that's exactly what's going on now.